We finally get behind the wheel of the 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness Edition. Does this off-road ready crossover bring enough capability to the table, or does it leave us wanting more? Buckle up, we're heading to the hills of Malibu to find out. We are back in California to finally drive this, the 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness. What the Wilderness brings to the table is more off-road capability to an already very popular crossover. But first, let's take a look at how we got here. In 2020, Subaru introduced the Outback Onyx XT. At the time, this was the choice for off-road adventure, as it came with a full-size spare tire and an improved X-Mode system. Subaru was so confident in their vehicle that they gave us an extended loan so we could test the Onyx XT in all the extreme conditions we could think of. That meant sand, snow, dirt, and rocks. It did amazingly well, but like all things, there was room for improvement. We identified three major issues with the 2020 Onyx XT when venturing into the woods. Number one, clearance. Approach, departure, and breakover were okay for the class, but if you can't get the wheels onto an obstacle, you simply can't climb over it. The Outback's long front and rear overhangs made choosing a line that didn't crunch the bumpers a tricky endeavor. Number two, tires. The included tires were best suited for pavement. On dirt and sand, they just performed poorly. Number three, X-Mode. When trying to climb out of tricky situations, X-Mode automatically turns off way too easy. Far too often, we found ourselves with X-Mode disabled simply because we spun the tires too fast. All these in mind, little did we know that Subaru engineers were already working on a complete lineup of off-road focused wilderness vehicles to address these very issues. And they're starting with this one, the 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness. First thing you'll notice is that black cladding. Lots of it. This plastic is intended to not only make a fashion statement, it shrugs off gravel without scratching the paint. In redesigning the bumpers, Subaru has also reduced the front and rear overhangs as much as possible, which improves the approach and departure angles to 20 degrees and 23.6 degrees respectively. Breakover is also much better at 21.2 degrees due to an increase in ride height of almost an inch, from 8.7 inches all the way to 9.5 inches. That should improve issue number one. Next, the tires are upgraded to a specially designed Yokohama Geolandar AT Trail. These combine a chunkier lug design without getting too aggressive, meaning they should provide additional grip off-road without completely sacrificing on-road performance. Subaru even included a fifth tire as a spare with a pressure sensor pre-installed. That takes care of number two. Finally, Subaru's advanced off-road traction system, dual-function X-Mode, has been reprogrammed for the new tire and suspension setup. It will no longer shut off at speeds over 25 miles per hour. Number three, done. With those key items addressed, let's take a closer look at some of the details. In the back, you'll find the same cargo capacity as the standard Outback, 32.5 cubic feet behind the second row, or up to 75.7 cubic feet with the passenger seats folded flat. A light has been added to the power door to illuminate the rear workspace. You're probably wondering about the tent on this vehicle. That's just to demonstrate the load capacity of the new ladder-type roof rails. On top, there's now a 700-pound static weight limit, which means you can put a tent up. However, on the road, you need to limit it to 220, which is called dynamic load. That's the most you can have on top while rolling down the road, so you don't want to load bricks up there before you start driving. That also brings up the orange markings around the Wilderness. Those are the same color regardless of the paint. They are used to call out action points on the vehicle. On the top, they indicate tie-downs. Front and back, they're recovery points. It's important to stress that these are not load-rated recovery hooks like you would find on a Jeep. Instead, they just add additional locations for threading a recovery eyelet. I personally have no issue recovering with these, but I would use them sparingly. The hood decal isn't just for decoration, that actually reduces glare when driving into the sunset. The engine here is the same as last year's Outback XT. It's a 4-cylinder boxer that's been turbocharged for up to 260 horsepower and 277 pound-feet of torque. The only transmission option is a high-torque CVT with an 8-speed manual mode. Of course, this also features Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive. The undersides are protected with basic underbody protective plates, but more comprehensive coverage is available as options. The increased ride height and more aggressive off-road tires do affect economy. This gets up to 22 miles to the gallon in town and 26 on the highway, which is a significant drop of 4 mpgs when cruising on the freeway. Now let's take a look at the interior. It should come as no surprise that in the second row there's plenty of room for a 6'1" adult. I am torso leg proportionate. This is where I would be sitting if I was driving, and I have lots of room. I can also tilt this back. There's a lever down here. Where's the? There it is. If I want to recline. And down here we also get 2 USB sockets as well as 2 stages of heat. Moving up front, the main cabin is very similar to last year's Onyx XT, but you do get some nice upgrades, like branded mud mats and an upgraded seat design. Although this does not replace the Onyx XT, at least in the US market. So let's go ahead and start it up. The seats are really comfortable, and I know this because I've driven almost 3,000 miles straight in an Outback Onyx XT, and these are very similar seats. They're just reupholstered for this model. I get 3 stages of heat, which is controlled in the main screen. Unfortunately, you cannot get a heated steering wheel in this vehicle, which is kind of weird. Of course, this does support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and last year they updated their head units with a really cool feature. Full screen CarPlay. That's right. This is one of the few portrait style displays that supports full screen CarPlay. And what you get is one of the best CarPlay experiences. And if you have an Outback from 2021, 2022, you can go into your dealer to schedule that update. This update also adds an auto start stop button to the main screen. As for this Outback Wilderness, it gets even more off-road data on the main display, which is a nice touch. In terms of active safety, all the greatest hits are here. Collision mitigation and adaptive cruise control with lane centering thanks to the eyesight system. Plus it has blind spot warnings and a rear camera with automatic braking. Unfortunately, both the backup and forward-facing cameras are the same low-resolution units as found on the Onyx XT. I just remembered this display vehicle has a tent on top, so we're going to go get another car. The vehicle I'm actually driving today is equipped with the optional sunroof, nav, and rear braking package. That comes to a total price of $39,965 US, including destination. Ooh, yeah, power is pretty good. Now this does have the same basic powertrain as the Onyx XT, but the difference is it has a 440 rear, which is basically the same back end out of a Subaru Ascent. So you're going to get a little bit more torque, specifically off the line. You're going to really feel more torque, and I felt it right there. So they've made a number of changes, not just to the exterior. It's not just a looks package. I mean, they've really gone through and fixed a lot of the things, I think, in terms of off-road that were, not ideal. But right now, I'm just feeling road feeling. And, I don't even hear these tires. So often with an all-terrain tire, you just hear kind of a... Yeah, so far, road manners, right? I mean, it feels like I'm driving an Onyx XT in all the good ways, but I have a little bit more torque off the line. I mean, it is high. It definitely sits a little bit higher. You can kind of feel that in the corners, but it's not roly-poly. It is really, doing a good job of staying adhered to the road and giving me good control. So they've dialed in a different suspension setup than what you get on a standard Outback. They didn't just add spacers to get the extra inch of ground clearance. Here they've actually used longer springs, and then they've retuned everything. And in doing so, they've given a ride just like a regular Outback, which is really good. Let's try the adaptive cruise control. I'm going to go ahead and hit set. I'm going to hit the center wheel. It's going to pace the vehicle in front of me. Let's get as close as possible. Yep, it's auto steering. It's keeping that lane. Now this is going to turn. That is a stronger turn than the lane detection is really equipped for, because it's really designed for multi-lane freeways, not for roads like this. But I don't have a multi-lane freeway available, so just had to test it there. But like I said, we've done tons of testing with the Outback Onyx XT. This one, in every way, just drives like that. Yeah, the transmission's no problem. Let's switch it into manual and see how this does. It's not actually changing gears, it's just moving the cogs. But it does a pretty good job of emulating it. It's not something I would really use in a CVT, but it's there for people who like that kind of thing. And nothing against that. If you like shifting gears, great, do it. Now that we got the pavement out of the way, let's head into the woods and see what this thing is really capable of. Now we are driving on the side of a mountain in Malibu. Malibu is actually really hilly, and we have a couple hills all to ourselves, which is great. We're going to be testing out some of the features here. Specifically, we have ground clearance is a big deal here, 9.5 inches, which is just a hair less than a 4Runner. It also has improved approach and departure angles, as well as breakover because of course, it's taller. But now we have the new improved X mode on this, which doesn't shut off. It'll just, you put it into deep snow mud, and whenever you get under 25 miles per hour, it starts working. When you go away, it turns off, but you never have to turn it on again. Now that is just deep snow and mud. The standard dirt and snow doesn't do that. Standard X mode, the snow and dirt mode, will use wheel braking to take power from wheels that are spinning and redistribute it back into the system. A lot of vehicles do this. I think the Subaru does it better than most. It's very aggressive in how it shuffles that power around. So then dual X mode, the second X mode, is deep snow mud, which actually allows for more wheel spin. Now, one of the problems we had with last year's model was that when you would spin the wheels over 25 miles per hour, and sometimes you're not moving, but the wheels are spinning, it would shut off. So we're constantly turning it back on. Well, now they say that's not a problem. So let's go ahead and turn on X mode. I'm going to put it into deep snow and mud and start this climb. Now, you will see more wheel spin than what you would get in standard X mode. And it's designed to do that, but it will still take power and shuffle it back into the system. This trail is really not that hard, so I'm not really sure why we're X mode in here. Maybe it'll get worse as we go. This is really tight though, and this is where I'm actually really appreciating, not only did they improve the approach and departure angles, the sides of the front edges are also tucked in, which improves turning. You're not going to hit it on the inside of a corner quite so readily, or on a rut on the outside. So far this is pretty easy. I haven't even needed X mode, so I'm just turning it off. We'll find a spot where we can test X mode in a little bit. They're very tight corners, really easy to navigate. And that's something you have to think about too. If you're going off-road, some people think, oh, you know, F-150. But the problem is a lot of these trails are really tight, and you need a vehicle with excellent turning radius. Like this right here. Can I do it? Can I do it? Oh, not quite. If I had hung it a little wider out there, it would have worked a little bit better. Okay, let's get this up here. Oh yeah. Spin those wheels, and up we go. Okay, keep on going. Wow, this is really tight. And then we're going to climb our way to the top. Still haven't turned on X mode. Haven't seen a reason for it. And truth be told, Subaru's standard all-wheel drive is good enough in most situations. Only if you're doing more extreme things do you even need X mode. Although, you know, snow, mud, ruts, that kind of stuff, it can be really helpful. Now these roads are all new to me. I've never been here before. So, I mean, we did see the product reveal here a while ago. Oh, look, we got rocks in the middle of the road. This is where ground clearance can really be helpful. So I do have first stage X mode on, and I am using this for the hill descent control. And can I use cruise control to go faster or slower? No, it is set. Now the way Subaru does it is if I go faster, it'll then make it a little faster. It basically takes over from the speed that you last had throttle. So right now I'm at 7, but if I want to go fast, if I want to slow it down, I just stop completely, take my foot off the brake, and now it's going to be doing it at 3 miles per hour. 2 actually. Excellent. And then once I put my foot on the throttle takes over again. So the nice thing about X mode is that you don't have to hit buttons, you don't have to goof with stuff. It's just there for you when you want it if you're already in X mode. Visibility, I have a really good sense of where my wheels are. There's some slight arching on the hood, which kind of helps with that. Now we do have, of course, some inherent limitations with the Outback chassis, which is why this has improved approach and departure, but it's still nothing like a Jeep. It's a different class of vehicle. And the benefit with this over something like a Jeep is this is really fun to drive. Like we were driving earlier on cement, it's really nice to drive on paved surfaces. Jeeps, not so much. I would say this would probably rate as pretty accurate as far as what most roads of wilderness buyer would probably go down, and this, it's just eating it up, no problem. I'm just gonna ease up it, and I'm just keeping the throttle on very easy, and I'm just in first stage X mode, which is gonna be the most aggressive. Now, for anybody who says that the CVT cannot climb, I am like leaning back in my seat because this is so steep, and it's doing just fine. I'm crawling at a fairly slow speed, 5 miles per hour, which is very controlled. I'm not using momentum to throw myself up the hill, and it's doing great. Easy. Now, where's my road? Oh, there's my road. Okay. So let's talk about tires. These are not KO2s or Falcon Wild Peaks. These are trail tires, and they're really good for stuff like this. If you need something more extreme, knock yourself out, go buy something. But this is a great compromise tire for road and surfaces where you need just a little bit more, but without compromising paved surfaces.
Now let's see how X mode responds to a slippery, uneven climb, which I measure to be about 30 degrees. You can see X mode applying an individual wheel brake on the passenger back wheel as is lifted off the ground. That reduces power loss through that wheel, in turn providing more torque to the wheels with grip. This functions very similar to an e-locker found on some more extreme off-road vehicles. On this Wilderness edition, Subaru has also tweaked the CVT, so it will specifically work better in steep climbing situations. Though we've never had an issue with the CVT in our testing, more capability is always welcome.
Subaru was kind enough to set up a rock pile right in the middle of the course, so we're going to see how well this system does. I'm going to keep it in snow dirt mode because I don't want excessive wheel spin in this situation. But I do really want to use that increased approach angle. I'm just going to keep throttle on smooth. I'm going 1 mile per hour. Now I'm waiting to hear any dinging. Now this does have underbody protection. And of course, an improved departure angle, which is helpful. And there we go, easy. Now I'm still in X mode, and this is pretty steep. But I'm going to use X mode to slow my descent. And what it's doing is it's braking each individual wheel as necessary to keep me tracking straight. It's a very nice system. So right now it's showing a negative 23 degrees, negative 23 degrees, still 23, and it's just driving for me at 3 miles per hour, making this super steep descent plumb. It's super easy. And the nice thing about this is there's no stress. I mean, you can go down a steep, slippery hill, and yeah, ice is going to pose its own issue. There's a negative 25% right there. Nice. Okay, and then I just roll into the throttle and I'm good. So that's my look at the 2022 Subaru Outback Wilderness. This is an amazing vehicle. I mean, I'm in general, I like the Subaru Outback. I think it's a great product for the target audience that it's really aiming for. And this one really, what it does is it opens up the Outback to people who are just a little bit more into the off-road. This isn't going to replace a Jeep. It's not going to replace a 4Runner. It's a totally different type of product. This is for, even Subaru was saying that this isn't for people who go to the campsite. It's for people who go just a little beyond the campsite, to go do something else once they get there. This isn't for like wheeling Moab. So let's not confuse this product with something else. But for the extra capability they've given it, I think they're going to sell a ton of these. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment. Is this what you want, or are you looking for something a little bit more aggressive?